Hello, welcome to Hints for Health, a series of podcasts covering areas and issues of concern and interest to global workers and those interested in having optimum health. Join us as we explore topics that affect most of us today and find ways to address potential challenges to your health. So let's join our hosts, Brian and Stephanie Kidman.
Welcome to Hints for Health, sponsored by Compassion Link. I'm Brian Kidman, a family medicine medical doctor, and this is my wife, Stephanie Kidman, a registered nurse and health educator. Today we're wrapping up our 4-part series on our amazing immune system. Last time we discussed how toxins, infections, and vaccinations impact our immune system. There are 2 other issues that have a significant impact on the strength of our immune systems and their ability to defend us against potential invaders. Let's first talk about stress, mainly that of recurrent and persistent stress.
Stress can be defined as a state of strain, tension, or pressure resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. Stress, whether physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, releases stress hormones, namely cortisol, among others.
Stress is meant to be short-lived and result in a helpful surge and then decline of cortisol and other stress hormones as the cause of the stress is dealt with. When stress is recurrent or chronic, the level of cortisol, for example, remains high and ultimately then suppresses the ability of the immune system to respond appropriately to invading toxins and microbes. Over time, the adrenal gland, when it produces too much cortisol, can become fatigued, and then the level of cortisol can drop and then be unable to rise quick enough to help us effectively deal with illnesses, injuries, and even emotional and mental challenges.
Of all the causes of stress, perhaps the most difficult and common is that of relational stress, whether in the family, amongst fellow workers, or even how a person repeatedly thinks about themselves, such as their perceived failures and regrets.
The immune system suffers when relationships are strained or broken. How this occurs is multifactorial, but chronic stress accompanies chronic ill feelings, ill thoughts, ill memories. A marvelous antidote and healing balm for this type of stress is forgiveness. When a person can forgive and emotionally release someone that has hurt them or acknowledge how they have wounded somebody else and ask them for forgiveness, levels of cortisol and other stress hormones are much more likely to normalize. No place is this starker than when a person acknowledges the God of creation, asks God to forgive them of their poor choices and the harm that those choices have caused, and determines to honor God with their choices and lives. Countless millions of people over centuries have attested to the peace and inner freedom they have experienced when they've done so.
A second related issue that affects the immune system is finding purpose and meaning in life. Feeling like a person has something to live for, a reason to get up another day and do something that they enjoy and that has meaning. Many studies have concluded that having purpose and meaning in life is directly related to living longer. And part of living longer is having a healthy immune system that defends us from the myriad of microbes and other potentially life-shortening adversaries. Did you hear about the study done in the 1990s where equal numbers of 65-year-old patients were assigned to 2 groups? One group kept working for an additional 10 years and the other group retired at age 65. 10 years later, 80% of the group still working were alive. In contrast, only 20% of the retired at 65 group were alive.
Purpose is so critical. I remember I had a particular patient in my practice, maybe we can call her Alice, though that's not her real name. We would see Alice come into the clinic much more frequently than most patients, and often for very minor complaints. Alice lived alone and did not connect much with her family. We began to understand that our clinic staff had been adopted by Alice as her extended family, from whom she received some support and care, and she enjoyed and needed that. Then there was a period of a several months gap when we did not see her at all in the office and really didn't even hear much from her on the phone. A few months later, she came to the office for some type of an acute illness. And as we talked with her, we learned that about the time she stopped coming into the clinic seemed to correspond to when her daughter asked her to babysit her granddaughter regularly. Alice happily agreed to do that and experienced a lot of joy in doing so, loving her granddaughter deeply. And in so doing was overall much healthier and happier than she had otherwise been because she had meaning and purpose restored to her life.
Life is challenging and often difficult. But when a person senses that they are in some way fulfilling God's purpose for their lives, God accompanies such with peace and contentment. That peace directly impacts the strength of our immune system, which overall leads to longer and healthier lives. This concludes the 4-part series on the immune system. In the future, we will focus on particular diseases in our Hints for Health, but we hope this foundation will help you prevent many of the diseases we will mention.
Thanks for listening to Hints for Health today. Join us again in the future for this series of podcasts that will help you in your goal of optimum health. This series is created and produced by Compassion Link, an Assemblies of God World Missions International ministry. I'm your host, Neil Ruda. For more information, visit www.compassionlink.org/hints for health and follow us on social media. God bless you.